All right, with the number of attendees now soaring, I feel like I've just gotten the go that we can go ahead and begin with our webinar. Welcome, everyone, to the very first Apinio webinar of 2024, What's Hot in Market Research. We are very excited to be here with you today. The market research landscape has seen so much changes in the past period, which what brought the idea of this webinar. And who better to talk about these changes and what's upcoming and what's coming new to the landscape with than our very own panelists here today. First up, we have Max Honish, our very own CEO of Apinio. Max, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks, good to be here.
And of course, our very own Director of Research, Luisa Leitch. Luisa, welcome.
Thank you. Also, thank you for hosting, Hussein. Lovely to have you as well.
Very excited to be here today. The topic is a very timely one, so to say, with the research landscape going through so many different changes and upheavals. But I would say a great point for us to start is to first off say, what are we doing here and who are we? So who's Apinio? How about we start there?
Yeah, sure. Let me kick off with that. So welcome, everybody. I think there's lots of interesting stuff to talk about here today. It's actually way too much to fit into 1 hour, but we will try our best. Maybe just a quick few words about who we are at Apinio. So for those who are not so familiar with the company, Apinio is a full-service market research platform. And what we do is we help clients across industries answer their business questions through fast and high-quality consumer research. And we do that by essentially owning the entire process of market research across all levels. So we do data collection ourselves through our own panels. We have our own market research platform where we do research design and analysis of the results. And all of that is wrapped by a research consulting team, which basically takes the client's hands and leads them through whatever stage they want and what they want to do themselves and where they need support. Generally, as a company, and what our philosophy is that we have a very, very strong focus on making the experience of running powerful research very, very effortless for our clients. So this is where we're coming from. Originally, when founding the company, we said, let's take consumer research and push it much, much more into the mainstream, enable more people to do it, enable people and companies to do it more frequently. And so this is why we have this very heavy focus on making market research more accessible and effortless. And yeah, this is why we're here today. We are based out of Hamburg, actually, a remote first company now based with about 250 people around the world. And today here to speak about what's happening in the industry.
Very excited to be speaking about that with you, with our two guests here today. So right now, I think we can go ahead and just jump right in. My name is Hussein El-Mella, Research Executive here, part of the Global Research Operations team at Apinio. We've already introduced our guests, so let's go ahead and kick things off. I would like to first start off by asking you about sharing your perspective on the major shifts that we've observed in market research heading into 2024. So how about we start with Max, since you already started with the introduction?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, maybe independent from 2024, just looking at the last few years, so also 10 years, actually, I would say it's really an interesting time in the industry. There's been so much happening, so much moving parts. We've seen lots of consolidation over the years, M&A activity, so which usually is a sign of disruption happening or major shifts going on in the industry. And I think that was driven mainly by two parts. So one, of course, is just an increasing cost pressure everywhere. Area was getting thinner, definitely, and just the need for automation and more cost effectiveness in industry. That's one thing. And the other one, and the much more profound shift, I think, which was there over the last few years and will continue, of course, and will be the major one, where I think everybody would now expect me to say maybe AI, and we will talk a lot about AI, of course. But the major shift or the major driver behind the shifts that we're seeing is the big urge of almost everybody out there to become customer-centric. And so that becoming customer-centric is something everybody wants to do. It's something that like not with many topics, there's not much debate about. Everybody knows making customer-centric decisions means making better decisions, bringing better products to market. But the big question is, how do you become customer-centric? And in our opinion, there is a very clear answer to that. But of course, it's a quest for many to find the right way. And this is something that has massively impacted the market research industry because on this quest to become customer-centric, lots of things have to be set in motion. The other
Very
one, of
exciting.
course, and we can talk about it, is AI, right? Which is basically accelerating all of these shifts that we've been seeing, plus adding other developments on top.
Very exciting. So we heard customer centricity, AI, two big buzzwords already. Louisa, what would be your perspective or your point of view as a director of research?
Of course, agree 100% with Max, like customer centricity or customer obsession even has been driving the whole industry for years, now accelerated by AI. But me, from a more like research perspective, there seems to be like an opposite trend when it comes to the methodologies that we're using. So yes, AI makes us more efficient, but also driven by this wish for customer obsession. I feel like a lot of brands are scrutinizing the methods that we have been using for decades. And there's this call in the industry to have more profound methods that can really predict real-world outcomes, like such as sales or market share, and to gain a very deep, holistic understanding of what drives human behavior and decision-making, which I feel like are two very interesting, not directly contradicting but opposing trends, to have AI make our lives so much easier, more efficient, and on the other hand, this call for a deeper understanding on the methodology layer, and also kind of trying to revolutionize what we have been doing for years. So yeah, if we have the time, I'd love to discuss more about methods. Of course, if you know me, I always love to discuss about methods.
So we have plenty to unpack. And I would say we'd start with the same order that we mentioned the topics over here. And let's start with customer centricity. I mean, customer centricity has definitely been a very growing buzzword in the industry for the past while. What would you say companies would have to do to achieve it or to even get to customer centricity?
Yeah. So as I said, I mean, it's been a big term for many years, and companies are busy with how to get there. And there are of course ways, and I think many have started processes where they really start to, at least in their mind or in workshops, put the customer into the center, and it's already leading to some better results. But essentially, the most straightforward way to be customer centric is, of course, to be in very close touch with your customer. And for that, you need this constant deep link to your target group in order to understand them on a great level, right? And so what we say is that the most straightforward way to customer centricity are accessible, actionable consumer insights. Now, of course, that sounds quite straightforward and easy, but the question is, as an organization, especially as a bigger one, how do you get there? How do you get to these accessible, actionable consumer insights? That is not something that will be enough if a CMI department has these insights, but you really need to find a way to distribute them into the organization, right? And so, since you're asking how to get there we see essentially three elements. Number one is, I already touched upon it, is decentralizing research, and that is mainly starts as a mindset shift, which is well underway. So basically every company out there has understood this, that getting insights and working with them, of course, that shouldn't be limited to the insights department, right? And so there are different ways, and maybe Louisa can later touch upon that, on how to do that. But you need to decentralize it. You need to enable more people to take action from the results. Yeah, so that's a lot of educational aspects there as well. Of course, that means that the role of the corporate market researcher is changing further. It has already changed a lot, and that will just continue. And then the third one that's very important, I touched upon it when I introduced Opinio in the beginning, is removing complexity. So this is something that we want to take away, this veil around market research, that it's incredibly complex and only something done for experts, right? And of course, that doesn't mean that market research, like under the hood, cannot be very complex, and oftentimes complex work is required in order to bring impactful results. But for the end user, the one who needs answers to their business questions, it shouldn't be such a complex process, and you shouldn't be a full-on expert to run market research. So we're in this on this mission, as I said, to remove complexity. And do that by which was a core driver why we said we want to own the entire value chain of market research. We want data collection, we want to have the platform, and we also want to do consulting, all of that out of one hand. And with that, we managed to deliver an experience that, let's say, is more joyful for people usually to take part in, and kind of democratizes market research to more people out there. So that's a bit of a long answer, but I think on the move to customer centricity, you need as an organization do really a lot of things in order to really get this done.
There was maybe a little bit of a spotlight on the centralizing the process of research as a crucial element for fostering this. customer centricity. And I mean, I can only imagine such an approach could bring about many challenges or even opportunities for market research as a whole. So can you maybe tell us more about the bigger ones that we might face, whether it's challenges or opportunities?
Sure. So, Louisa, let me know if you want to jump in. It's as I said, so it starts really as this mindset shift, and there we are quite far. Really, we see that with a lot of our clients that they know, okay, it needs to be decentralized. So that means, okay, we need the right tooling, and you need still, of course, the expertise also in the company, right? So what's exactly going to happen with the CMI department? What's the role of the researcher going forward? And if you have a right plan for that and you have the right tooling, then you're already quite far in finding a solution on how to decentralize these accessible insights in the organization. But Louisa, maybe you can touch upon that and the role of the researcher.
Of course. Yeah, if you think about like what are we actually doing with market research results, they should serve us to make better decisions or make decisions faster. And these decisions are often not made within the insights team, but they're made by other departments. So the branding team needs to decide where to take the brand. The marketing team needs to decide which advertisement material to put out and what to communicate. Product team, innovation team need to decide on new products and concepts to launch. Strategy teams need to understand the strategy, right? So the consumers of the insights in the end are other departments in the company. And we've just been seeing this shift, also, of course, driven by efficiency measurement and cost cutting, to just give these people the tool to get the answers themselves, supported by the in-house market research teams that then serve more as a consultant than really the people that deliver the whole project end to end, but help the other departments make sense of the data. But of course, people working in marketing, in branding, and product don't have a market research background most of the time, and there are some intricacies to running research that are difficult. So as Max said, if you use a tech layer, if you use a tool such as Opinio, it needs to be very easy to understand and foolproof. So the data that we get is actually usable, and it needs to be supported by the human touch and consulting, which can either be delivered by institutes or by in-house market researchers, if the company even still have an insights department, right? We have some big clients at Opinio who have completely gotten rid of an insights department and completely decentralized it. And then, of course, these people need some support to run their research effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like market research sort of is becoming an everyday resource in the workplace, and a resource that is for everyone and not just for market researchers or insight managers. So could you maybe elaborate by that? Tell us more about what could this mean for the market research landscape?
Sure. So exactly, that's basically the goal. So when I talk about this mindset shift, which has progressed quite far already, the goal of that is to really make market research an everyday resource in the workplace. So just like we have our information sources, all of us, we go to Google a dozen times a day, and ChatGPT, etc. And if you're in finance, you go to Bloomberg, etc. And if you need consumer insights, you hopefully go to Opinio. So this is the idea, right? That it's something that's much more effortless, much quicker, and that you start really as a person working in any company, not just insights departments or marketing, but anywhere, really start to validate all these consumer-facing decisions that you're making on a constant basis by checking with this information source that it's eventually going to be.
Yeah. You mentioned ChatGPT, and I feel like that is an excellent segue to jump into our next topic here. And we're already getting Q&A questions about the second topic. So it seems to be the topic of the moment that people would want us to talk about. So let's jump into the second point we talked about earlier, which is AI. And moving from customer centricity into AI, and with all these shifts happening, AI surely plays an increasing importance in market research and in every single field. But specifically, where do you see AI interventions happening in the market research process?
Yeah, okay, so big field, of course. And I think it helps to somewhat divide it into three dimensions of how we see it. The first one is what we call internal efficiency through AI. So that is something that is maybe the less sexy area and not the fancy customer-facing tools and solutions that you're seeing, but it's something that is incredibly impactful and actually independent from the market research industry. So that means all these processes within a company, all the operational processes can be massively improved with a mix of automation and AI, or AI-enabled automation, right? And so this is something that we've been focusing on heavily, and that I'm 100% sure will have massive impact on the industry, of course. So all these Excel-based processes, manually moving data from one place to the other, merging it, etc. All of this is completely in the process, or in some places already has happened, to be changed by AI. So internal efficiency is a huge one. It doesn't get so much attention, I think, but it might actually be, in the end, the key part, or the core driver, and bringing the biggest changes to the industry. Yeah? So that's number one. And then the second one is changes along the customer-facing value delivery chain. Yeah? So when we talk about the whole research process, from research design, data collection, and insights, recommendations phase, etc., that's of course where AI supports along the way, and we can go into them now in a bit. And then the third dimension is basically what are the impacts that all of this has on the industry and the ecosystem as a whole. Yeah? So what segments of the insights ecosystem will need to transform, will merge, etc. And we will come to that as well. So I think let's go along the value creation chain, and we just go like with a typical research project. It probably makes sense. We start with the research design phase here, and that's something where even before the AI wave, of course, lots of companies have experimented with templates, try to make smart templates, etc., and somehow to assist the client in setting up research. But as probably many of you here on the other side have experienced, that's just often seems like a nice attempt, but it's just not getting the job done. Yeah? And so with that, AI is really helping a lot. So there's lots of automatic creation of high quality questionnaires with much less input needed, yeah? Or with just the natural language input, that it then produces great questionnaires, which then, it's, especially at this stage, definitely still need to be finalized by researchers. So that's something that we also always pay a lot of attention to, that none of this goes ever live without going through an expert's hand. But this is something that has massive impact on the research design phase, of course, speeds up everything. So we're seeing lots of changes there. So that's main part in this phase. Maybe Louise, you wanna touch upon that as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, GPT and AI has already made my life so much easier in all these stages, like especially in questionnaire conception. If we get the prompting right and give GPT the correct input, it is already capable of writing a really, really good questionnaire, or at least serve as a sparring partner to suggest extra answer options. If you're writing, let's say, a UNA questionnaire and you need some more drivers and barriers, more brands, more occasions, GPT is extremely good at just supplementing this list, or kind of suggesting other questions we could ask. So in my head, GPT is always just an extra colleague that needs a lot of instructions from me, but if instructed correctly, works super hard and diligently to give great output to help me write better questionnaires for the clients and also help our team. So we started writing these prompts together with IT and product. So Hussein is also involved in that. So we sit down from the research team with our great people in IT and product and engineer prompts that really give output that we say are good, we as researchers, and with very high expectations. And it's already working extremely well. So I cannot wait how this will look like, when we sit down in December, Max, and maybe look back on the year where we are, right? Because it's already so good at this point.
100%. And even before the creation of the questionnaire, when it just comes to the research design, the creation of the research questions, that's where it helps so much, right? With so little input, you can already get so far, and especially get through this difficult step often for the client, and also sometimes for us, even consulting them, of basically having the blank sheet of paper. And so what exactly we want to find out, and getting through these first steps, it massively helps to use AI. Yeah.
Louisa, that was definitely very interesting to hear you talk about that and your experience, especially since you're director of a research department. And I guess I could use that a little bit as a segue into our first Q&A question that I would like to ask you now, since it very much relates to exactly what you were saying. And I would like to encourage our attendees, if they have any further questions, to send them through our Q&A function, and we will get through them throughout the webinar. But I guess, Louisa, the question comes from Piyush, and they say, with the burst of methodologies involving AI, do you think trust is going to be the next big challenge for many companies? So the trust in this output that is coming from the AI, and the trust. What do you think?
100%. That is such a good question. I feel like trust in data has been an ongoing issue in this industry, right? So currently it's trust in AI output, but in the years before it was always like trust in the responses that panels give us, right? Always this question like, are these actually human beings? Are these just bots? So we as an institute know how important trust in the data is. So I feel like even if GPT reaches a point where the output is 100% correct, many companies wouldn't want to trust this. And then it becomes yet another to-do for insights managers or institutes like us to always double check, do a sanity check. Does this make sense? To always run parallel tests to foster this trust. The thing is, though, like data or statistics and market research is never 100% accurate science. Sadly, we always have a margin of error in everything that we do. There's always randomness of the universe happening in every single thing. I can also mess up when I do something in Excel or PowerPoint. Actually, the likelihood of me messing up in Excel is much higher than GPT messing up in Excel. So I think we just have to learn over the next month to which degree we can trust and how risky it would be to trust GPT and then GPT committing an error in, for example, reporting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
so
interesting.
Hossein, just quickly to add to that, so, I touched upon it as well, that it's so important that there's always, of course, a researcher in the mix, and these changes are not 0 to 1, and now from one day to the other, it's all GPT doing the job, right? So it's really step by step. And one small example that we actually might show later in the video is how, for example, as part of the, if you design a questionnaire on Opinio, there's this button that lets you create further answer options to a certain question with AI. And it's actually, that's an example of just a small little step. And of course, you have higher trust because you've not given everything over basically, but you've controlled the process, and then you give this little step over to AI. And I think this is how gradually the trust will grow over the time.
Yeah. Max, you also mentioned the value creation journey when you were talking about the journey of AI. And we already talked about the first step in the research design. What comes after that? What's next?
So after, let's say that's done together with a researcher and supported by AI, then we come into the data collection phase. And that's where, yes, a lot of things are also happening. So generally, I think when it comes to data quality, and Louisa touched upon it already, we see two very, kind of offsetting developments. So for once, there's of course an avalanche of bots that is coming to all these different online panels, and they are fighting them with everything they have. So bad actors have a powerful tool in their hand as well to create bad quality answers, and at the same time the same systems also help us to detect them. So these kind of offsetting each other, but it means you really need to be awake there in this kind of cat and mouse game that we're playing there. So lots of stuff happening there, but just the algorithms really help us to further develop the bad quality detection. So that's one thing. One huge change, I think, will just be the redefining the panelist experience going forward. So we're running some pilots on there. Currently, you think, maybe the default mode is still online panels, browser-based online panels. So we at Opinio, of course, we have a different approach here with much more intrinsically motivated approach with our own app and much better user experience, etc. But still, in the end, you would say, yes, it's about tapping answers and going to the next question. Yeah? And so we've run pilots internally where, for example, just a AI-based voice is leading you through a questionnaire. You just speak back naturally, and it also can adjust depending on your answer what follow-up question it's asking you. So that's essentially kind of blending already quant and qual research. So I think this is just an example of how the panelist experience is going to change a lot. It's something that also we at Opinio have from the very beginning said, okay, it seems like the most broken thing in market research is the panelist experience. People just don't want to take part in market research unless you pay them a lot. So that's very broken. And we fixed it, but I think there's still lots to do, and to get to the goal of actually making it enjoyable to share your opinion, which is where we want to get. Yeah. So
that's very interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe before I go on.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. And I wanted to quickly, on that point that you just mentioned, quickly switch to Louisa here really quick. With these rise of data and bot answers and that type of things that Max alluded to a little bit, how would you sort of put these advancements in AI on a scale in terms of how much it's complicating the research journey versus how much it's also improving it on the other side? What would you say? Where are we standing currently?
I love that question, Hossein. And the thing is, we've always had bots, right? And the industry is normal. They're smarter now, but we are still smarter as human beings. We can outsmart them. So I can live with more bots because, I mean, we in-house already have AI tools that can detect bots based on their patterns. Normally their answers are too perfect. A human would not give such a perfect answer and flag them. But like the time that we already, with the tools that we have at the moment, save by employing AI is crazy. So actually between like designing a questionnaire and running the field, there's one other step, right? Which is setting up the questionnaire on any type of survey platform. And that is purely operational work and can be very effortful depending on the questionnaire. And I think this might fall into the bucket that Max mentioned with unsexy internal efficiencies, where we will actually gain the most. So Hussein, you know this, you are part of the research team, but sometimes we get questionnaires and they are in the horrible Excel format, in PDF. Like we even had a client that wrote a questionnaire by hand and sent us a scan. And then of course the human needs to sit down and discern what's happening and then upload it to the Opinion platform or any other survey tool, right? Qualtrics, SurveyMonkey. But now GPT can read whatever format we have and just program the questionnaire for us. And we just have to do a last sanity check for the last few details. And now what would have taken us like maybe 4 or 5 hours before can be done in 10 minutes, right? And we already see these gains. So yes, I can live with a few bots if it means that we have all these great efficiencies, which gives, for example, the two of us more time to actually think about research implications, think about new methods, and do the exciting part of research.
And of course, on that note, a big shout out to Opinio's research team, who can take whatever input you give them and turn it into excellent or research excellence. So big shout out to you. Max, what's next on that journey?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to data collection phase, there's one thing which I consider the dark horse really of our industry, something that might have the most incredible disruptive effect, and that is synthetic data. So synthetic data is essentially artificially generated data that's created via algorithms to mimic statistical properties of real world data. And there are interesting companies popping up already around this, and we're running our own pilots here and talking to partners about how this could benefit our data collection processes. So the idea is basically that you can imagine a future where you would not collect 100% sample from human panelists, but you would take the data based on either prior collected data in that same survey or of all the surveys before your data pool, and you extrapolate the sample data so that not 100% needs to come from there, which can either help, of course, in reaching or calculating insights for very hard to reach target groups, or essentially also, of course, to decrease cost and increase speed if you can just rely on these predictive models. So that is something, of course, that's I would say also the it really is a dark horse. I mean, it could go in any direction. There also it's a big question, of course, how long it takes to get results there that really are that you trust. But it could have incredible impact, not just on the panel world, but also then what this means and what kind of data we can generate through these artificial data sets.
I agree. I feel like it opens up so many opportunities. Like I'm really excited for the potential. Sampling will become much cheaper if you can supplement, let's say, 20% of your sample with GPT instead of human respondents that somehow need to be incentivized at one point. And it can really boost, especially low incidence target groups. I mean, most of you guys in this webinar, the three of us definitely, we know these requests where clients are desperate to speak to a specific target group, but it's just so niche. It's like, we want to speak to vegan people in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, and that's like maybe 50 people total that are this population, or a super niche B2B target, and reaching them is either extremely effortful, you need to do CAR-T telephone interviews, takes forever, takes a long time, is expensive. So here can really help. Of course, it's super new, right? We will face a lot of challenges working with synthetic data. I think for me, the biggest one is to not bias the responses that we get in any shape or form. We know that tools like GPT have been trained on the internet, which means there is a bias towards weird in all caps, right? So Western, European, industrialized, rich, democratic kind of answers. So if we really want to represent all of the population in synthetic data, the prompt engineering needs to be really good, but it's nothing that we cannot solve, right? It's going to be a challenge. But yeah, Max, I'm excited to see how this is going to change this year. I think in the next 3 months, we will already see some crazy developments there.
Yes, absolutely. Agree.
Feels like you almost read my mind and answered my question before I even asked it.
Sorry.
So what comes next? So that's really interesting. I think we spoke a lot about the data collection phase. What is there a step that comes after it? What comes next?
Sure. So maybe Lucy, you want to go first with that one? I think it's the one where we've been feeling so much pain and doing so much convincing work and
100%.
finally seeing results here.
Exactly. So yes, of course, like data collection is not the end of the process, because most likely we want to do something with the data. If not, we just spend money unnecessarily. But of course, someone needs to analyze this data, visualize this data, but then get insights and recommendations from the data, right? Because the research was requested for a specific purpose, right? We want to make a business decision. We want to decide which product to launch, which ads to air, if we should rebrand, yes or no, whatever. We need to make a decision. So in the end, we need an answer. And getting answers from data has until now always been like a very human process. I mean, in the last years, we've already seen a lot of automation when it comes to charting and visualizing. There's lots of players, us included, that have a dashboard. So no one needs to sit down in SPSS anymore to create a conjoint. The tool just gives you the conjoint data set, right? So this part, the computers are already doing for us. But still, like, someone needed to sit down and most of the time write a 200 slides PowerPoint report, which is manual work, is a very static product, right? You cannot change anything in the report, and then it's getting sent around and then filed somewhere on a SharePoint. And yes, you can communicate insights that way, but it's very inefficient, right? And now what we can do with GPT or AI is that GPT just creates reports for us online that are not static but dynamic. We can easily create different reports for different stakeholders. So I could create a very top line. Those are the most 4 important points for Max for the executive summary, because he doesn't have time to read 200 pages. I can create a very in-depth report for you, Hussein, because you want to learn the details. And I can do like a short 10-slide thing for marketing with the same service, serving different stakeholders. And now that GPT has learned how to do math with the code interpreter, we can actually reliably give GPT data sets. So we can just upload a CSV and it will be able to read the data, do things with the data, and report on the data. So for example, 2 weeks ago, Hussein and I were prompt engineering to get GPT to write better insights. And without us even asking, GPT run a k-means cluster analysis on the data set in Python, reported on the clusters, wrote insights about the clusters and recommendations, and we didn't even ask for it. And then our amazing data analysts ran the same cluster analysis manually on R, and it was correct. So now we have this trust that, yes, GPT can do math and give us these deep, deep insights, which like we were super surprised that we've already leveraged it. So we will see big shifts when it comes to reporting and communicating insights. Max, what do you think? Like, reporting is always an ongoing topic for you as well,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I mean, everything correct what you said there, of course. And then to touch back maybe on this one point, the decentralization that I talked about in the beginning here, that's also now something that is maybe less so AI enabled, but probably also. So just the fact that you are now able to create these fantastic, powerful, dynamic reports, which are not PDF based, not static. They are just there. You can use dynamic link sharing, etc., for different stakeholders and share them into your organization in decentralized ways. So that helps a lot. And if we've been working towards this for years to try to build something that outcompetes PDF reports, and we have to say that we got close, I think, but didn't really get there until we were able to create these super powerful reports with AI. So we've been working towards the end of the PDF report here for a long time, and it's coming close.
It's our personal mission. I think it will take some time, especially in like bigger enterprises, to have this shift that there's a better thing than PDFs. I mean, we can see like the latest ESOMA report, 20% of the whole market research share worldwide is still reporting. Like 20% of all the market research money in the whole world is spent on reporting, like people creating a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And I think this money can be invested more efficiently elsewhere, for example, in running more research or collecting more profound data, more reliable data, when we can just outsource a lot of the creation of these reports to AI. But of course, coming back to trust, always having an in-house market researcher or someone from an institute who can curate, edit, add contextual data to really make it usable for other stakeholders.
Yes, so it's really analog to the survey, to the research creation process, where it helps a lot, but always a human in the mix to really check it off. And maybe here to touch upon another topic already, which is we would have gotten to anyway, secondary data, because now Louise, you said, okay, then you just have all this information on the platform. It's no longer siloed in these PDF reports. And that, of course, enables, opens up a whole new field, because now imagine you've run 2-3 years of consumer research on the Opinion platform, and you have all the data there, and you've done your further analysis, the insights, maybe commenting, working together with colleagues through the insights, all of this on the platform. And that just opens such a powerful door to a field where you just go there and you essentially ask your data that sits there question. You can also add your own data that maybe you didn't get through Opinion to the platform. So these are all things that we're working on, where you just go there to ask your consumers, also if it's secondary data essentially.
So as a research executive, I should know that the insights is the last phase here of the process, and I'd hope so. And to segue you both into my next question a little bit, I wanted to show you a really small video that I'm sure both of you are very familiar with, but to get our participants on the same page, I'm going to show the video and move into my next question.
Let's see. How can we improve this? That looks much better. Now we just need a few more answer options. Let's see what you can come up with. Perfect. What about another follow-up question? All right, this looks good. Now on to analyzing the data. Let's summarize the answers here. Amazing!
So very exciting things. I mean, it really goes to show that when we're doing this webinar, when we're talking about these things, we're not just talking the talk, but we're walking the walk. But the reason why I showed you this video, and maybe especially to you two, Max and Louisa, is because my next question is, where does that leave my job and the job of other executives and consultants with the rise of AI?
Louisa, you want to go first?
I can go first. So I've been saying for years that I wish robots would take over my job so I can work less, which is always a nice thing to do, especially if we think about new work, right? We as workers should just also benefit from technological advancements instead of just working more and more. So that is just a shift that we will see in the work space everywhere in the next years. But more importantly, I feel like for us researchers, it just frees up time to do the things that we as researchers enjoy the most, right? Which is understanding human behavior, understanding categories, understanding brands, and finding insights that really drive something, right? So I feel like researchers' desks have been cluttered with these operative tasks for years, like checking a data set here, charting something there, making a PowerPoint look nice, refining a questionnaire over and over again, so that we get stuck in this operational work and don't have that much time to focus on the human layer, right? Like empathy, talking to other humans, consulting them, helping them understand what data means, helping them make a better decision. So actually for me, I find that very exciting that I can do more of the things that I love as a researcher. Think about methods, do research on research, right? And not get stuck charting yet another thing in Excel.
Yeah, so just to double down on that, it's even before the advent of AI, it's something that we always said internally is that we want to automate as much as possible so that our research consultants or research executives can really focus on a higher level task and not on the manual stuff, right? Where they essentially add more value, A, and B, also have more fun in the work, right? And so just like the job of the corporate market researcher is changing, also, of course, researchers on the institute side, need to, it's true for everybody in today's world, and not just for researchers. We also always need to acquire these new skills. We will get to it now when we talk about what it means essentially for research departments and companies. It just means learning new skills really, and getting into this new world.
As both of you were speaking, we actually received a comment that when so much time is saved with such new technologies, it opened the gates for new employees or employees to upgrade their skills and learn more. And I think, Louisa, this is a great point to the system that the research team employs at Apinio, the 80-20 system, where 80% of the time is dedicated to work tasks, while 20% is dedicated to things like personal developments and other things related. So very good comment. But I wanted to sort of shift into our Q&A again a little bit so that we get the time to answer some of the questions. And the first question we have is from Aurélie. And the question is, what do you think about data confidentiality with ChatGPT? So how would you tackle that point?
Yeah, so definitely that's of course a huge point. We get this question all the time. So when we're talking here about all these experiments that we run, etc., that of course is either with our internal testing or with clients who specifically consented to the data being shared there. I think it's a bit of a phase right now where all of this is quite new, so everybody is skeptical. Just imagine when we had the advent of cloud computing, right, and everything was all of a sudden AWS and Google Cloud, and people were skeptical about the data being there, which is totally not fine. And I think the legal frameworks first have to be found and example cases have to be made until there can be clear trust to that, right? So either that's one way that will go. Plus, what we already see is that we see large language models being trained and executed locally, right? So it might actually be that going forward, a company like Apinio, for example, doesn't even have to share data with another third party who runs the models, but we execute them ourselves. So big topic, I think, has to be currently handled on a one-to-one basis. Some clients are more open to this. Some are more conservative, understandably so, right? So even if they would like to, oftentimes they're just constrained by the legal surrounding. But yeah, I think it's a typical topic that you see whenever there's a new technology arriving, and it will just become less and less, I would say, problematic over the years.
Yeah.
Here's a quick tip if you guys are interested in that topic. And the ESOMAR AI Task Force is hosting some great discussion groups and webinars around exactly that topic. First one is beginning of March, I think. So obviously ESOMAR is the big institute that we have for market research, super important for them as well. So we would definitely join these discussion groups, and might be a good conversation to join as well.
Yeah, and maybe one more question that I'm going to ask you to give a very brief answer to, and that question comes from Safa. They say, as a client, what should we consider when evaluating the adoption of AI-driven market research solution for our business? So when all these market research companies are adopting these AI research solution, what should a customer of these companies consider?
Okay, good question. I think it's a bit hard to give an answer because, of course, there will be many different approaches. If you are already working with several providers, then I think just working with them over the coming months will give you a good idea of what trajectory they are on, and in which of these providers you will eventually put more trust. So maybe to already speak to this, so we would have come to it anyway later. In today's world, today it's still quite normal that you have a bunch of different providers and you're running this research there and this there and different project on different platforms. I think that will have a decreasing benefit going forward. I talked already about the secondary data, so there might be an incentive to have more and more data on one platform. And now with this super fast shift that we're seeing, of course, we all know it's not going to be all players out there who are able to embrace this and understand the new technology and are tech savvy enough, etc. So there will be differences, right? It's a race. And I think just working with your current providers will give you over the months quite a good feeling of who it is, who you can trust the most. Because I mean, either you sit tech savvy yourself, or you really have to trust from the results that you're seeing there.
Yeah. Louisa, you spoke a lot about the importance of consultants and that my job will still be there when I wake up tomorrow, no matter how much AI we implement. And I guess I want to move through that to you with the time we have left to sort of speak to you about the topic you also mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, which is about methods and method excellence. So what's hot in the method world, Louisa?
Firstly, methods are always hot if you ask me. But yes, like we've just discussed for the last, I don't know, like 40 minutes, how AI makes us more efficient. We can run more research faster, right? So that basically everything we've spoken about is doing what we've been doing before, just better, faster, and more efficiently. But of course, when we look at research, effectiveness of what we're doing is equally as important. And yes, maybe AI can make us a little bit more effective because it helps us find better insights in the data. But like when I've been speaking to our clients for the last month, maybe the last year, I had the feeling that more and more insights departments or more and more people generally kind of scrutinize the methods that we've been using for decades. So I hear so many people telling me, actually, I'm like so dissatisfied with the way we do brand tracking, or I'm paying for like 3 concept test solutions. They're very expensive. None of these test results ever correlate with the actual performance of my concepts in the market or the ads. So in every part of like primary research, people seem to be dissatisfied with the methods they've been using, asking for more effective methods that can actually predict a reward outcome, such as sales of a new product, the general market share, acquisition of new customers. Yeah, and I feel like that is very, very interesting, right? That we have these 2 very opposing forces, like everything that's operative, let's make it more efficient with GPT, but on the one hand, get better, more profound methods.
Yeah. But what type of methods are we talking about here that are more profound? Can you give me maybe an example that you can share already?
Yeah, I mean, I just already mentioned people saying they're dissatisfied with brand tracking. I myself have been dissatisfied with the way we do brand tracking for a long, long time, right? The way we track brand health hasn't changed in decades. It's always a funnel-based approach. Every institute does it the exact same way, like us included. It's basically also just a cost issue where clients went in the end. And I kept hearing from our clients, like, look, I measure awareness, I measure consideration. What do I do with that? Like consideration went down 2 percentage points. Do I have a problem? If I have a problem, what do I do now? It wasn't very actionable. And then as often, there's smart people that do the work for us. Actually, I have the book right here. The blur filter is not doing it. So there was actually academic research published by the Aaron Beck-Bass Institute on better brand health. I've been fangirling so much, I got it signed by the authors at this point. So that is academic research, like research on research that people did for 10 years to figure out a better way to measure brand health. Whenever I've spoken to this with clients, like just yesterday, we had a long session with a client on this, and they were like, oh my God, like finally. And they're so excited. They all go buy the book. They all read the book. They start discussing it internally with their stakeholders because they actually have the time to read the book and discuss it because they're not stuck charting yet another PowerPoint, you know? So this is just one of many examples where I feel like there's a big need for better methods. And when something comes into the market, either pushed by institutes or just really by academia, there is a new openness to embrace and try out these methods.
You've mentioned research on research, which I think is a very interesting thing here, or just a nice play on word. So I guess I'll jump to Max here real quick. Max, do you think research companies or the future of research companies, we should adopt this research on research type of proprietary new methods or that type of thing?
Well, yeah, several questions in one. I think first of all, proprietary methods is going to be one way to distinguish yourself going forward. So thought leadership in general will become extremely important. There are several aspects of the research process that will just be commoditized, and there's no way to distinguish yourself there. So either you everybody essentially has to find their clear USP. Just delivering the basics going forward is not going to be enough because they will be commoditized. The margins will be extremely low. So thought leadership, having your proprietary methods might be one valid way. Another way could be, of course, being extremely tech savvy, right? So if that's the company DNA, then that might be enough, right? To have the highest level of automation, just great leverage of AI. There will be, of course, also newer tech players entering the industry. Yeah, so we already see it. I mean, there's super interesting solutions already coming up that weren't there a year before. So I think there's going to be lots of change going forward. To maybe close this loop to the beginning, that we've been seeing lots of changes over the years, and AI is just speeding everything up. So lots of exciting things ahead there.
Yeah, Louisa, my RSS feeds, my LinkedIn has been buzzing with psychographics and new methods about trying to understand human behavior. What can you tell me about those really quickly?
Yes, like I love psychographics. Maybe I'm a bit biased because I used to be a social psychologist doing that kind of research at unis. But it's true. I feel like there is a renewed interest in psychographics. And that goes back to what I mentioned a bit earlier, that there's this wish to understand humans and what drives them, especially when it comes to brand buying, at a very deep and profound level, right? So oftentimes when people look at psychographics, it's about segmenting their target group or understanding their target audience a little bit better. And of course, there's many systems around this. There's personas, there's big segmentations you could do, for example, Sinus or Sigma. But oftentimes clients have the experience that they're not really actionable. It's impossible to target these people in media spending. So when it comes to advertisement, these methods normally stop. So there's this renewed interest to understand, okay, do we have something that really measures what drives people to buy a brand and also is actionable, so we can use that to create better products, better messaging, and actually target them on social media. And yes, psychographics are really powerful, especially if you look at like motives and attitudes. Those are great drivers for customer behavior that we as brands can leverage to build better products and messaging.
And
Yeah,
with
so
that,
just quickly jumping in. So one thing I think that's been driving these new methods that Louise is now talking about is this. I think in the past, CMI departments were kind of exempt sometimes from just showing a clear ROI of their work. Not all of them, of course, but sometimes it was an easier take on that, and I think that's completely over. So definitely now in the last 2 years with the recession and cost cutting everywhere, but budget decision makers just want to see this clear ROI, and so there is this pressure to deliver or use methodologies where you can actually measure, right? Everything, we want to measure everything. Everyone who sets up a budget wants to measure ROI, and the same is true for research, where in the past, with past technology, it wasn't really possible. So I think those times are over, and they are the driver behind the development of some of these new methods that Louisa talked about.
yeah, Louisa, I'm going to put you on the spot and combine a couple questions here into one.
Do that.
And the questions that we have here that are coming in through the Q&A, they're basically pertaining to the qualitative analysis and the qualitative aspect of research. So how are these technologies, or how will they affect the qualitative landscape?
I love that question, because the things that Max and I have been discussing have been very quant focused, but of course, around 16% of the market research done worldwide is qual, and it's on the rise. Like, qual is not going to go away, and it's a great piece of research to do. And I think also here, AI will make our lives so much easier, allowing us to do more qual. Because why do people not do qual, right? Most of the time because it's just painful. Recruiting the people takes time and costs money. Interviewing people needs yet another human being doing the interview, who again costs time and money. Then analyzing the results, like transcribing them, analyzing them, again takes time and money. So this is what keeps most people from running qual research. However, with OpenAI, the whole analysis part, the transcribing part, the coding part, and interpretation part can be done super easily, actually way better than with quant data, because GPT is a language model, right? So it can process language. And Max already mentioned, like, first experiments, that the quant survey is not a written survey anymore, but GPT is kind of moderating it. Well, GPT can also moderate a focus group, like the video that you just showed us, Hussein. That was also just an AI voice. That was none of our wonderful Opinio employees, right? So we can make the conduction and the analysis of qual research so much easier leveraging AI technology. And maybe that's the whole black horse aspect of synthetic data, even substitute some of the participants by using OpenAI. So what I like to do is, whenever I have a research topic that I'm not very familiar about, I engineer myself a focus group partner in GPT, telling him, like, you're that kind of person using that kind of product. I will ask you questions now so I can get deeper insights. Maybe a little bit silly example, but we had a survey about like fake nails, and I'm not a fake nail user. It's like, my nails are horrible. Maybe I should be a fake nail user. So I told GPT, like, hey, you're like a 30-year-old girl, you love fake nails, you always know the latest trends, you've been wearing them for years. I'm going to ask you some questions so I could understand what could be drivers and barriers, right? So even there, we can maybe start emulating some of the participants for focus groups or interviews.
So that's one thing I can now say Louisa doesn't know about, and that's fake
Fake
nails.
nails.
I finally
No.
got you, Louisa. So let's try to really wrap all these ideas together. And let me move to Max here really quick. And I'm wondering if you can, in maybe 2 minutes, a little bit, talk to me about the implications for research firms, for insight ecosystems, from the POV of an executive, of a CEO. Where does that leave us? What's going to change? What's not going to change? How do you see the future?
Yeah. So, okay, I think to summarize, I think we touched upon the most important parts. And to summarize, it depends, of course, if you are now on the corporate researcher department side or on the research provider side. I think on the provider side, lots of things will happen, and the clear competitive advantage will be tech mastery. So if either you are a, let's say, tech native company and you already have that included basically in your workforce, you come with these skills, or you have it easier to acquire them, or you will have to find other ways to get it. So either through hiring, of course, upskilling the existing workforce in the company, or, and that is probably the more straightforward path and fastest path, to partner. You need partners who can bring this knowledge, who can substitute what you don't have, and who also kind of where this kind of knowledge kind of bleeds over into your company, right? But because it's like a new language that researchers on both sides need to start learning. Otherwise, you're running the risk, I think, of being in this commoditized segment of the market, or you go into a highly specialized niche, of course, that AI will not touch maybe for now, but a bit later. Yeah? So I think that is really the most important thing if you're leading a research institute. Then I think we will see segments emerging. So we talked about Qual now. Qual becoming so much more automated, so much easier to get insights from Qual. Will probably merge with Quant much more. So I also talked about it before, where some of the kinds of interviews that we're running are actually a mixture of Quant and Qual already. So that's something we're happening. So providers who are only doing Qual, right, that might have impacts on them. Then also there's a whole segment, Louisa mentioned 20%, I think, is only basically in the reporting space. I think that one will have a tough time. There's air's getting thinner, certainly in that segment. So there are really, lots of impacts we will see over the coming year, and it's exciting time. But it really means upskilling for everyone, and also for us, right? And we are absolutely tech native company. But there are things like synthetic data, for example, where we also say, okay, we need to get more experts on board to become knowledgeable in this field. Yeah. And then maybe to run it up on the CMI department side, it's kind of similar. I think what I said is we'll go towards finding really this one partner or two partners who you trust and do more research with than just having this Rolodex of providers, and depending on price or maybe one other attribute, you make your calls who to run a project with.
Yeah, I think we all here wish we had a little bit more time because I still have a dozen questions for the both of you from our Q&A. I would like to encourage everyone who submitted a question to the Q&A to reach out to the Appenio email. You will be receiving an email right after this webinar. Please reach out with your questions. We'd love to answer them. We'd love to sit down with you, have a conversation. We're all nerds. We all love talking about market research. So nothing would make us happier than to sit down with you and talk. So for me, to wrap it up a little bit, I would like to inform our participants about our upcoming webinars here at Appenio. So what's next? The first thing coming up is on February 20th, unveiling the power of informed decision-making with yours truly. So make sure to sign up to the webinar and be there, but that's not the only thing happening. Also happening are webinars in both the Appenio Spanish team and Appenio Germany. In Appenio Spain, we will be talking about distinctive assets with the amazing Valeria, our senior research consultant, and Laura, our team lead for client relations. And in Germany, a weekly live demo happening each Thursday at 4 p.m. So if you're interested in any of those AI features we showed you, if you're interested about the future of AI on the Appenio platform, or if you want to learn more about market research, make sure to join those weekly live demos. And with that, thank you very, very much, everybody, for joining our webinar. Thank you very much, Louisa. Thank you very much, Max, for your time and for answering all my questions and all the Q&A questions. This was truly a blast.
Thank you so much, Hussein, for moderating. And I cannot stress enough that you should really go and see more of Hussein in his webinars. Hussein, you're never going to get replaced by any AI, because the warmth and the empathy and the human factor and the fun that you bring to every single session can never, ever be replaced by any AI. We do have a purpose as human beings and the human element. So guys, of course, Hussein cannot promote himself, but I will do that. He is amazing. So go join his Market Research 101 webinars. There will be more coming this year. Max, thanks for the great discussion. It was, as always, amazing talking to you. I have some great ideas that we should discuss further outside of this webinar.
Yes, to be continued. Can only agree what you said about Hussein. Thanks very much, guys. Really enjoyed it, and to be continued here.
Have a
Okay,
great
take
evening.
care,
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.